allow us to introduce ourselves. Fmba is an assembly consisting of 125 associations and chambers of commerce, representing more than 500,000 businesses across all sectors. We are the largest and the only united collective voice of all businesses operating in Malaysia. Let me introduce our council member at the center, our chairman, Dato' Abdul Malik Abdullah. On the left, Raymond Wu, our vice chairman. At the right, Dr. Sri Ganesh, our deputy secretary general. You can ask questions about this issue after the release. I will pass this to our chairman.
Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Okay, bersama. Thank you very much, Ms. Shah, our Executive Secretary. First of all, good afternoon, everybody, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for being here. So, as you know, we have requested for the PC today from Fmba, Federation of Malaysian Business Association, and we thank you for your attendance. I'm sure you have a copy both in Bahasa and also in English on the issues which Fmba would like to bring up. Fmba, basically, as mentioned by Shah just now, is a federation consisting of 125 associations across the board, all over Malaysia, all industries, one single voice. And after consultation with our associations, we have come up with this press release, which I would like to share with you on maybe point form. Okay. Following the announcement of the Prime Minister to open the country's borders and fix the SOPs on 1st April, we welcome and wish to thank the government the initiatives to help businesses which are still affected as a result of the implementation of MCO and the spread of COVID-19 since early 2020 till now. When the COVID first came, obviously everyone thought that it's here for 3 months or 6 months. No one expected it to continue till today, and people are still suffering of what has happened to our country and still wondering how and why it happened. Fmba, representing 125 institutions, as well as business entrepreneurs, found that the government has ignored the businesses who are still in very critical situation and still needs continuity in their respective businesses. An effort got to be implemented by the federal government with all state governments and private agencies so that they can contribute a form of assistance to all business, and it will to some extent give more effective impact in efforts to ensure the respective business survive without any layoff or business closures. The last thing the government wants to do is close business or sack people. So we feel that the government should engage us and work together with us because we understand our business better, and we are willing to work with the government to formulate a strategy where it can be a win-win situation for the businesses, for the government, for the economy, and for the rakyat. Among things which we have come up with is that we are requesting for a special moratorium, which is fully controlled by the government, not by only Bank Negara, but also by the government, so that we can help businesses where we are invited to give our opinions and work together with BNM and with the government to help businesses to continue doing business. As you know, the moratoriums have stopped for certain sectors and people are still in dire straits. B, freeze all action by the government agency, because we feel that of late there has been a lot of issues businesses are facing with the local authorities, with customs, with LHDN, with immigrations. So we're saying to the government, have mercy on us. At this time, we need a breathing space, maybe at least a 6-month period for us to regroup and reorganize ourselves hopefully it's post-pandemic. And these officers or these issues on this task force and all should be more relaxed for the 6 month period so that we are able to continue because this is very stressful for businesses. And then the third point is, see, there should be a system whereby the government can come up with a proposal to help us so that employees can continue working for a long period. We have a lot of issues with foreign workers not able to come in, so we're using our local workers, but we feel that the employees do not work for a long time, they work for a very short period, and this impacts the business very badly. So we feel that if there is a possibility, like how we have CTOS and CCRIS, if we could create a system where we have job hoppers or people who come and go, we have the 6 jobs in a year, so that employers can be careful before employing somebody. There's a system or a portal where we can check, so the employee himself will feel reluctant to simply leave a job. This is actually to help the employer and the employee and the government, though it might sound harsh, but we need to have a kind of system so people stop changing jobs and keep hopping jobs just for 50 ringgit or for some simple reason. So this is one of the proposal from Fmba. D, to ensure there are no issues in utility prices increase or other increases, which we feel is not the time to increase any tariff. Because as I said before, we are beginning to breathe again. Let us breathe. Things like electricity hike and all should be postponed at least for a 6 month period until we are back on our feet. Lastly, the minimum wage, we welcome Datuk Seri Azmin Ali statement to say that there might not be a minimum wage increase, looking at business sectors are not ready for a wage increase. The minimum wage, if you increase it at this time, maybe big conglomerate or big nationals, they can survive, confidential companies, but small players and medium players will be affected if the wage is increased, because our revenue is already down. The income is already down, the sales are down. And as you know, Omicron is still around and people are still fearful to go out, and people are even advised to stay indoors. So how will the business sustain and how will the business rotate or increase if you are told to stay at home and don't go out? And of course, we are also happy to see that the government has announced that shops will be allowed to open for 24 hours. Restaurants, supermarkets and other places will be allowed to open for 24 hours. I think that will help the economy. And also declaring it as an endemic, we can see our neighboring countries, many countries have already started relaxing their rules, their SOPs, so that people can start going back to normal life, because they are not only being affected economically, but they are being affected because of depression. Their mental health is being affected. The marriages and the family is being affected. And as you know, last year there was a lot of cases of community suicide even in Malaysia, which has not seen a precedent before. So these are certain factors which many people leave out and do not even notice on the depression and the mental health and issues caused at home, and children not going to school and not going to universities. This is all going to have a long-term impact to our country in the future. Thank you. Okay, sorry. The last part. We therefore would like to request to the government, we humbly appeal that the federal government and all the state governments and private agencies be more concerned by listening to the grievances and complaints as well as feedback from business associations and NGOs, and to take action as soon as possible. And please, before announcing more changes or more SOPs or more new things, that we are roped in together with other NGOs so that we can give our input, and hopefully this can help all parties concerned because we are all one family, and any move by the government or the private sector or by the association will affect the other party. So we are all under one umbrella, and I think we should all work together. Thank you. So I think we will open the floor for questions. Please, if you'd like to ask any questions which are relevant on the topic we are discussing, price hike and the moratorium. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, that's your question.
Hi, okay, I'm Amina from the Malaysian Insight. I have two questions actually. You mentioned a lot of job hoppers, right? In a system that you think the government should implement to stop this. Okay, first, I want to know, do you have any statistics on how many job hoppers there have been throughout the pandemic? And second, why do these job hoppers hop their jobs? Is it because of the minimum wage? And do we blame them for job hopping if they have to live within below 1,005? And you're talking about them also having to feed their own families. So yes.
Okay, about job hoppers. It's not only why they hop the job. There are a lot of problems created during this time. For example, this employee comes to work only for 2 days, just to try whether he's interested in the job or not. Okay. The second thing, they work for 7 days. Okay, and after the company has trained them, they feel they don't fit to work, they go away. So, example, they could be involved in crimes, this and that, but they don't declare it to the employers. So after that, we found out they are drug addicts or anything. So all these kinds of factors is actually giving problems to the businesses. The businesses are working hard to recover their business, but because of these issues, that's where the businesses become very late to recover. Our government is talking about recovery, business recovery every day, but they don't see the problems why the business are late to recover. When no workers, they need to advertise again. Even the government is working very hard by having this kind of program, Jamin Kerja, a lot of things. But does this really help? Because if there is a system where the employers can study the employees itself, if they have already worked for so many here and there, they hop a year maybe, 10 times, okay? There are certain, this attitude issue, this is an attitude problem. It's not because of what is the statistic, but it's the attitude problem of these days of employees. So that's a very clear factor which gives problems to the businesses to recover fast. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that, Dr. Sri Ganesh. I'd like to add on a bit there. Because of the shortage of labor in the country, because of the foreign workers have gone back and they could not come back due to borders closed and government regulation. So there is a big shortage of workers in most industries in the country, especially hospitality. So what happens is that now I have a few people working for me and they are good. So Mr. A comes by and says that, oh, this guy is good. I'll give you 100 ringgit extra if you join me. So the guy is interested to increase his remuneration or increase his capacity to earn more money. So he will leave me and go to company A because the company A is a bigger company which can give more salary. So a lot of pinching of workers are going on for the last 2 years, especially in the hospitality industry, because there's a shortage everywhere. So the guy who pays the most will get the worker, and the guy who pays the most, unfortunately, is the rich guys and the big companies. So the big companies become bigger and richer, and the medium and the smaller companies go under and get folded. So that is another big issue because the vacuum is there. So people can offer more salary and pinch your staff, especially if it's local. If it's foreign staff, they cannot pinch because you're on a work permit. So that's another issue which I face and I've seen face, for example, even in the restaurant industry which I'm working, when the hotel retrenched everybody, they had no jobs. So all the hotel fellas all went to work in restaurants and cafes and mama shops to earn a living. But when the hotel reopened, when these guys have already got experience for a year or 2 years or 6 months, all have ran back to the hotel. So then the cafe and the restaurants and all the other places face a vacuum and then their business suffers. Many of people have closed their restaurants or their business spa and all that due to shortage of employees. Thank you.
But then that means that that is not the fault of the employees. It is the fault of the government for not providing a certain group of employees to affected businesses. So I just feel like there's a bit of victim like blaming on employees instead of looking inwards, which is, the government should be helping you guys to supply the workers.
I mean, what we are trying to look here is we are trying to bring our issues to the table so the government can look at it and understand. Because the government always says that why bring foreign workers in when the job can be done by Malaysians? Malaysians will never do 4D jobs. Even if you pay 5,000 ringgit for a guy to wash plates in a restaurant, he will not want to do that. Even he's paid 5,000. But if you pay him 3,000, he can be a dispatch boy or a Grab rider. Because for him, working as washer is degrading. They will not do dirty, dangerous, demeaning. There's one more. There's supposed to be 4 Ds. Dirty, dangerous, demeaning. One more is what? Okay, there are 4 Ds anyway. So that vacuum, you still need to bring in the foreign workers. And Malaysians are not going to work as waiters and all, especially if you're talking about mama shops and all. If you're talking about Starbucks and coffee beans, wearing jeans and a cap and looking stylo Milo, then they are okay. So they have to understand mismatch, because what we are saying, there's 800,000 people looking for jobs. There's 1 million vacancies. Why do you bring in more people when you have 800,000 people looking for a job? But these jobs they are looking for does not match. Malaysians are basically looking for jobs which are easier and a higher income and not dirty and degrading. That's the attitude of our Malaysians, and we have to accept it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Fmba from Channel News Asia. So the reopening of borders will see a rise in tourists as well as probably make it easier to bring in foreign workers. So what is Fmba's view on this? Is the reopening of borders a welcome move, or are there more challenges that come with it?
Yeah. What has happened is over the past 2 years, a lot of workers have gone back and they did not come back into the country because their borders were closed. Now with the borders open back, they will be allowed to come back in the country. But we need to negotiate with the government, because the government got to understand the levies which has been paid for the 1 or 2 years during the pandemic should not be counted at all. It's not counted at all. Likewise, when you get a tender to run a cafeteria or any canteen for 3 years, the last 1-2 years is not counted at all, because there was zero income or negative income. So that should not be taken into the account. So, example, we have an approval to bring in 25 people. 2 years ago, and we paid the levy, but we couldn't bring them in because of the pandemic. That's no fault of the government. But now they are allowing to bring them in, which is very helpful. Definitely, this will be a breathing thing which will really help people to come into the country and start working in all these sectors and helping. That's one. Two, the people who are overstayed here, to legalize them, which is an excellent move, which the 6P program they did earlier. Now they have another program to help to legalize those who are here. So that we welcome, and we hope that they will be allowed to come in without not much hassles, because there will be what you call COVID test, there'll be quarantine. So everything, the cost is going to go up. And again, the employer is going to be burdened. But at the same time, we are very happy because if we don't open the borders, all the countries around us open their borders, Malaysia is going to lose out big time because everyone has booked their holidays to Thailand, to Philippines, and everywhere else. Because if we are the last to open, we lose out. You cannot go for a holiday every month. People plan their holiday maybe twice in a year or once in a year. So if we are the last to open, we will lose out. So we welcome the move and we are thankful for the move and we hope it will help to revive back the economy. Thank you.
Okay, I will add on tourists. You mentioned just now. Okay, if for tourists, it's another issue. It's about building up the confidence level for the tourists to travel to our country. Okay, even the borders are open. Does it help? Does the tourists from other countries choose Malaysia as a destination? Keyakinan, whether they have already their confidence level to travel. So I think it will take a very long time to get and build up back the confidence level for the tourists to travel to Malaysia. Choose Malaysia as the destination. So we need to create the confidence level more for the tourists to choose Malaysia as a safe destination first.
Earlier, you mentioned that many restaurants, etc., have closed during the pandemic, right? Restaurants, businesses, and whatnot. May I know whether how many businesses under Fmba itself have closed due to the entire pandemic for the past 2 years? Second question, now that everyone mentioned reopening safely, it's easier to bring in foreign workers and whatnot. Are you going to be, would your organization, association, sorry, be specific about their vaccination centers at least? Whether they should have received their boosters before coming in, whether they have the necessary requirements and whatnot before coming in.
Of course, in terms of statistics, we have not really carried out an extensive survey, but definitely amongst all the associations, business associations, we know that generally 20 to even 60-70% reduction in business and some closing. More so the tourism industry, and we talk about like spa and tourism hotels. They are definitely very badly affected. So for sure, it ranges. It ranges from those who are not as affected because domestically they have consumers, to those that's very dependent on tourism and overseas traveler. So those then they are badly impacted. So it ranges. So that's the questions that you have with regards to the percentage. Then the second question, what was it again, Gerard?
When they come into Malaysia, how do you make sure?
Yeah, I think rightly we should follow the government's compliance because I think like KKM, they actually do look at the international standards of WHO and the likes. So I would think at least fully vaccinated and with booster would be something preferred. And then of course, when they come in, we could look into a cost-effective way to maybe quarantine them. But I think post April 1st, the quarantine for those who are already fully vaccinated would not be required, but of course they will do the RTK by maybe a professional. So by having that negative, then they should be able to already be employed or be trained up.
Yeah, if I can add to that, we must applaud KKM for being very strict. I have a staff of mine, employee, who was coming back last week, and he was supposed to be home quarantined. Because his address was not properly filled up, mistake on my part of my admin. He went to Islamabad airport. He was not allowed to board the flight. So he traveled, like for example, Penang to KL. So that distance he traveled, he lost his ticket. He had to go back. We reapplied with the proper address. Then he's got the approval. He's arriving today. But you see, they're that strict, which means this is fantastic. We feel safer if we do that, no? So we feel safer. That's number one. Number two, I believe the government's requirement now is that you must do a PCR 2 days before you fly. 2 days before you fly, and then you must do an RTK when you arrive. Within 24 hours. So I think they have got certain things in place, which is really good, and they are allowing quarantine at home, so that it will not burden another cost again to the employer. So that's what I wanted to share, because I said I was quite surprised that KKM did not, and ended up buying a new ticket. I lost so much of money. Wait another 3 days for him to arrive. So, being a restaurateur for the last 40 years, I have this big issue of getting the foreign workers back into the country. Can you imagine how many businesses out there who are much smaller and not very much organized in SOP and systems? How are they going to get their foreign workers? Because we are not here to talk about ourselves. We are here to talk about the whole industry. We need to help the whole industry, because we are all in the boat together. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just curious, are there any nightclubs under the FMBA?
We have association which is taking care of the nightclubs and also the bars. Under one of the Protem chairman is here, and he has also requested for help on the certain regulations, because the SOPs are announced quite recently. Many people are still blurred, and this is what FMBA's role is. Because when you deal with the authorities, you have the police, then you have the guys from the local council, then you get the people even from the KKM, which is the health. Then you even got people from NATMA. Okay, you have people from the police. We want to make sure that all of them speak the same language. The problem is sometimes the information is not properly sent down. So different people interpret it differently, and that could victimize the business operator. We don't want the entrepreneur or the business operator to suffer because of the information not trickled down in a proper way. That's what we want to request, that if there is a rule, it should be standard, and every agency should report it as it is and as has been set by the government, so that it's fair to everybody. Because at the moment, we can see there is still some grey area where bars and nightclubs are concerned. In fact, we spoke about this morning. We discussed this issue. Thank you.
I would like to add something on this. You see, this news, when they said nightclubs, bars to be remain under negative list, this will be a factor for the tourists, international tourists, to choose Malaysia as their destination. They will see Malaysia is not allowing this to open, that to open. For what we go for holiday there? So this is another factor, which will affect the industry. So that's what I think they need to find a SOP and a way to let the nightclubs open their business, but with a very strict rules.
Any more questions?
So if there's no more questions, I think you all can always contact. Our contact details are below the press release. I can feel free to WhatsApp us or message us and ask. We will reply you then. So thank all of the media to join this press release, and thank you.